So this is always one of my favorite shows to get to do. And it is, believe it or not, one of the most commented shows we have on the network. People love road tripping to this particular show. Did that really happen? So we're glad today. Wayne and I are here together, of course, and we have Austin Fowler with us. And Austin, the format of the show is very simple. It's laid back. The Bible talks about there's a time to laugh. So that's what we're going to do today. Hopefully, no pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
But we've asked you to come with some stories that you're willing to go on the record and tell us. And then as you say things, if stories hit us or what we have written to, we'll kind of just go back and forth for a little bit. So, without further ado, Wayne, what do you have?
What do I have? What do you go to me first?
No, Austin, what's up, man? What do you got?
So we were on a mission trip to Costa Rica, and I remember Spin called me, and he was like, "Hey, we like Yes 2 had just like boomed, and like so we had all these people like register. I think we had like 65 people going. Well, the town we were going to didn't have enough hotel space, so I remember he made a special trip to go find a hotel that could." That was just 65 gringos from the States. This ain't counting translators and local preachers. So, I mean, he had a lot of area. So he went back down and he calls me. He's like, I got this awesome place. He's like, it's like all these cabins. It's just this kind of, it's just really cool. It's all these little cabins all over the place. So, and so I'm like, okay, cool. So I get there and I find out that I have like 6 roommates, and it's like 2 rooms, a set of bunk beds, there's a bed for everybody, but it's not the most like welcoming, you're like one shower between 8 guys, not the best environment. But the first night we're all fighting over who's going to be in what bed, and so I'm in the back room on the top bunk, and I'm like, I'm one of the older guys here. How did this happen? But, I remember, so we were just kind of playing around. Well, come to find out, the bathroom, they had a window above the shower, just a little small window that was open. Well, we're all hanging out in that front room. Well, next thing I know, we see a bat go flying around the room. And there's 8 of us in there. 5 of them go to the back room and shut the door. Well, I'm in the front room. My bedroom's in the back. And I'm like, really, guys? Like, y'all are going to leave me in here with this bat? So the only thing I know what to do, because the bathroom door was shut too. So, it's trapped in this front room. So all I do is just open up the door. And people are we had like a little kitchenette in this room. This guy goes and grabs a pot and pan. He's about to beat down this bat. It's just flying in circles and circles and circles. And I'm like, what do I do? So all I know to do is just open up the door and like start like chewing it out the door. And so luckily, that was me and my friend Philip, and I got plenty of other stories about Philip that hopefully I'll get to tell. But I was like, man, we can't tell anybody that a bat flew in our room. And so that was the first night.
Yeah.
So then Saturday morning, Sunday morning. We checked in Saturday night. Sunday morning, I get up. I'm one of the first ones up to go take a shower. Well, it was a walk-in shower, and so we had learned to close the door or the window, and so there no more bats can get into our room. And so I remember turning on the water, and there was a faucet at the bottom, but there was also the shower head. Well, the water is all coming out of the faucet. And I'm like messing with every knob, trying to get it to come out the shower head so I can take a shower. And so I messed with it like for 10 minutes. And I'm like, well, Philip had just taken a shower. He's at breakfast. So I just run up to breakfast. I'm like, Philip, you got to show me how to use this shower. And he said, no, I took a bird bath. I was like, do what? He's like, I couldn't figure it out. So I got down on my hands and knees and just splashed water on myself. And I'm like, yeah, Spin, you got a great place. You got 8 guys in 2 big rooms that share one bathroom that doesn't even work. Well, by the time I had gotten down, somebody else had jumped in the shower and figured it. We messed with every knob and could not figure it out. But luckily, somehow I didn't have to take a bird bath and splash water on myself. I actually got to take a normal shower, and I had hot water, which is sometimes a rarity on mission trips. Yeah. But I'll never forget that bat. I think if you could see the faces on these guys when that bat flew in the room, they were just like, they were running like little girls and screaming like little girls, shutting the door, getting pots and pans, about to beat this bat down. And it's just you never know what you're going to get on in a hotel for a mission trip.
Or a hotel in general. I've got one, and then I know you got one. Yeah. I was staying at the DoubleTree in Jackson, Tennessee for Freed Hardeman's lectureship. So I got there. I was coming from Roanoke, Texas. I went and preached there. I'm driving 5 hours to get to there. I'm pulling in, to Little Rock late, 3 in the morning-ish or whatever. Then I'm hitting the road again at 9 a.m. I drive straight to Freed Hardeman. I get to the hotel after being at the lectureship, making sure everything's set up and ready to go. And I'm just exhausted. I just want to rest for a little bit before I have to go to dinner. So I go into my room. I have no power. And I was like, that's weird. So I go back downstairs and I said, hey, the power is off in my room. And she goes, yeah, that happens. I'm like, it shouldn't. It's not a good sign.
That's not normal.
And she said, oh, well, we cleaned the room today. So we did a really deep clean. And I said, did you clean the electricity? I mean, how does this work? And she said, well, what happens is they pull the bed out from the wall. And when they do that, they unplug the central, outlet that controls all your lamps. And I said, and then they didn't plug it back in? She said, no. And I said, well, can I move the bed somehow? She said, probably not. And I said, okay, well, what are we going to do about this? Because I kind of need to get situated in my room. And she said, well, I can move you to a different room. Well, Dad and I were staying in the same hotel across the hall from each other. We were working on the lectureship stuff. We had to be near each other to do this. I said, okay, as long as you keep me on the same floor, that's okay. And then she goes, so we could fix your room tomorrow, or we could put you in another room tonight. And I said, well, obviously another room tonight. Yes. I mean, I kind of need electricity to charge my phone, everything else. She goes, okay, you'll be on the 4th floor, which is 2 floors down from where I was supposed to be. I said, ma'am, I don't think you understand. I'm supposed to be. And she goes, this is all we've got. Okay, fine. So I go and I get situated in that room. I go to change. And as soon as I got dressed, my door is opening. And it's this couple, a man and his wife. And he goes, what are you doing in our room? And I said, this is my room. What are you doing in here? That same lady gave them a key to the room that 20 minutes ago she gave to me. So I go back downstairs and I said, hey, someone just came into my room and said it was theirs. And I had just finished changing. It was almost, a bad situation here. And she said, oh man, that's really unfortunate. And I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, what? I said, did you give him that key card? She said, yes, sir. I'm the only one working here. And I said, did you just forget that you had just seen me and given me that same room? Yeah. I said, okay. So I've told Dad they're building a home too in Jackson, Tennessee. That's where I'll be next February because this is the 3rd year in a row I've stayed at this hotel and something has gone wrong or not been the way that it's supposed to be. And it's supposed to be a fairly nice hotel,
Right.
but I was talking to Mom about this the other night and she said, yeah, I hate that place. So it's, I guess it's kind of on the record now that it's not the right place to go, but you got one too about a hotel, don't you?
Yeah, we were, Larry Fife and I were traveling back from Russia on a mission trip. And we were overnighting in Amsterdam. Amsterdam could be a story all its own, but anyway, we did everything the way we were supposed to, as good Christians would. But so we stop in Sheffield Airport and train station is one huge hub. It's all right there together. Well, right outside the front door, basically, is a hotel. So when I saw it online, I'm like, yeah, I'm booking that hotel. And so I got that room set up, and I did this, way in advance, and everything was fine, I thought. So we're coming back through. We've been flying all day, and the flights were all a story as well. But anyway, so we get in, and it's all automated. In Europe, everything's, swipe a card, and everything, just keep moving. And so anyway, so we go in, and I had my reservation, so I got a little computer kiosk, and I'm sitting there and I'm typing in my reservation number, and it asks for my card. I swipe my card. They pop out a little key on the bottom. So we go, and we're headed up to the room. I open the door, and Larry, I'm 5'10". Larry's almost 6'7". I don't know. Larry's a big old guy, and anyway, it's just funny. Anyway, so and I'm a Navy guy. He's a Marine guy. So we've been ribbing each other pretty hard this whole trip anyway. So we've just had a ball. It's been fun. So anyway, I open up the door, and literally this room is big enough for a bed turned sideways. and it's just a double bed in this room.
One?
It was supposed to be 2 double beds. I was trying to get 2 beds, and everything. And I look at Larry, I said, well, here's your room, because there's no way I'm staying in this. I mean, the bathroom was one of those, we found out later, this is kind of one of those couples area to try to show up and everything. And so this room was set up like a kind of a couples retreat, with the
honeymoon suite,
fancy lighting and things like that, So I opened the door and I saw that. I was like, well, Larry, there's your room. And I handed him his key and I went back down and got another room. But it was, it was just the look on both of I looked up, at Larry and I'm like, okay, this is yours. Like, this is not happening. I'm not crawling over you in the middle of the night. So anyway. Yeah. Sometimes mission trips, you never know what's going to happen.
I could tell you so many stories about hotels.
Oh, man.
I probably could take up the whole show.
Yeah.
One time, so this was my first mission trip. We had gone to Panama, had a trip. Well, Spin was like, we need to go to, we were doing back-to-back campaigns. So my first mission trip was, we went to Panama for a week. We had a week in between, then we went to Costa Rica. Well, we were going to Costa Rica, and there was a lot of problems with the churches in Costa Rica. There was anti-ism doctrine being spread, and so we were going down to help teach them. It's okay to help non-Christians out of the church trade, do good unto all men. So we literally went all over Costa Rica because it was just spreading rampantly, and so we were kind of ramping up for that. But Spin was like, I need to go take care of the hotel situation. And he said, I haven't seen the hotel. I just trusted this guy to do it. And I'm kind of worried about it. And I'm like, so I remember we had landed in Costa Rica. We took a taxi to this hotel. And I was like a little skeptical about it, but I was like, I got to go to the bathroom. And the guy at the reception desk spoke English enough. He said, well, here's your room key. You can go up to the room. So I take my 2 bags, throw them down. I didn't even look at the room. And I went to the bathroom and I went back down to help Spin get his bags. And so Spin looks at me and goes, how's the room? And I was like, I didn't really look. I had to go to the bathroom. And so we go up there and we're in there for about a total of 2 minutes. And Spin goes, this isn't going to work. It had no air conditioning. And it was, in Coast San Jose, it can be a climate. It's either really, really humid or really, really cool. But Spin had, during this time, I think he took a shower when we got into the hotel and had walked from the shower to the bed, and he was going to put his socks on. Just 3 steps was total he walked, and his feet were covered in black. and he was like, Austin, this is not going to work. And I said, well, what are we going to do? And he said, we're going to find another hotel. Me and you are going to stay here. But the team is not staying here because they were coming on Friday. Mm-hmm. I said, well, how are we going to find a hotel that quick? He said, I got a plan. So he's like, start looking up hotels and write down addresses. So I started making a Google sheet, boom, boom, boom. And he's finding a translator with a car. And we literally went all over San Jose trying to find this hotel. And luckily, we narrowed it down between 2. So we kept bouncing back and forth, negotiating within our budget. And I remember, I was like, there is no way these people would have put up with it. Like me and Spin, yeah. You've been on mission trips. What sometimes we go through. But I remember one time it was like, no, this is too far down the line. But my favorite probably hotel story was we were in Nicaragua. And this was probably my favorite hotel. It was this old coffee plantation, but this owner had built a hotel on, and he had receptions there. It was just it. Mr. Chamorro was awesome. And so the first year we went there, me and Spin had our room, and it was down this hallway, like basically it was the eating area, the restaurant, and then hotels all off the restaurant, and then like back in the back, all this side. But right off the restaurant, there was this little hallway where his wife had all this nice art gallery stuff, and there was one room for the ladies, and then there was another room in the back, and that was mine and Spin's room. So it was very quiet. Nobody could find us. Well, people did find us, and you'll learn that. So it was the last night of the campaign, Thursday night, and we stayed late at the church building, say bye to everybody, all those things. And so we had just laid down, and we're talking about, hey, this was a great trip. We got to come back here. This was just a great campaign. We had a lot of baptisms. And we were about to roll over and go to bed. And all of a sudden we hear, I look at Spin. I said, what's that? He goes, I think the power went out. And so about that time, we hear a knock at the door. I mean, just knocking on the door. And it was one of the local preacher or one of the native preachers that was staying with us. And he's, speaking Spanish. Come, we're like, what? And so Spin says, throw on your shoes and come on. So we go out there and the hotel was on fire. It was I guess the power wattage couldn't handle all the people taking the hot shower and the air conditioning running.
Wow.
And so it starts sparking flames, and I'm like, only in Nicaragua is this going to take place? And then so we went back the next year, stay at the same hotel, and we were playing cards. We had eaten dinner. It was like 9:00 at night. And so some of the teens would playing, like rummy or, one of those just fun card games. And by that time, power goes out. And next thing we know, we hear a fire truck. And the first time was hilarious because it was like 1:00. Me and Spin stay up that late talking. And so it was just me and him out there at the fire. Well, about that time, Mr. Chamorro had run out in his nightrobe, grabbed the fire extinguisher, and it's spraying this stuff. It's just going everywhere. I'm like, this is nuts. People would not believe me if I said, yeah, our hotel caught on fire 2 years in a row in Nicaragua. It's just the stuff you go through on a mission trip. You just don't believe it unless you go.
Yeah, well, it's always fun to think about those experiences are something that you remember fondly and that are great. You mentioned he ran out in a bathrobe. Just a week ago or two, I was staying at a home too, and I was needing to go get something taken care of because the weather was really bad where I was at. I was trying to make sure there was an understanding of what the plan was if the weather got really bad. Where do I go? What do I need to do? Because I hadn't had that happen before. And I get down there and there's a big old like baseball or math team, some type of squad has decided they're going to stay the night in this area because of the tornado warnings and weather watch and all that. So they're all trying to check in. So there's this long line of about 6 people. So I go stand behind them and I'm thinking, okay, I can wait. It'll be all right. Well, then this lady comes down in a bathrobe, which is not what you expect to see at a hotel in the foyer, in the lobby. And she goes over, and unfortunately at some of these, what they call sweet shops, they have bottles of alcohol. So she grabs a bottle of wine and starts standing holding it and goes right over to the front part of the desk, even though there's this line of people, and just starts staring at the guy working the counter like, hey, I need to be attended to. And people are going through the line. It's getting a little shorter. And then after the second or third person gets done, she goes, excuse me, I want to buy this. And he's like, well, when I'm done taking care of all these people, you can gladly have it. And I told her, I said, you can go in front of me because I just wanted her to leave. So I was trying to get her out of the area. Well, she goes in front of me and she purchases what she's going to drink. And she decides that she wants to open it down in the lobby. Now, I have never had the distinct, job of opening such a bottle. I'm a Christian, so I don't do that. I've never had to do that before, so I don't understand how it works. Most of the things I've ever had to open are more of like a soda can that you pop a tab or you twist the cap off of a bottle of, Coke or whatever. So I've never used a corkscrew before, but I know the principle is you spin it down in there and then you try to pull it out. But I've seen on the movies and TV and the sports teams when they win, and they pop things or whatever, that it can often like just shoot out everywhere. And so I start to get concerned because I'm thinking, if that does happen, she is like right in front of me. If that gets all over my clothes, how will I explain to my wife when I get back home why I smell like alcohol? Because there's no real explanation for that. And I was like, okay, I need to distance myself from her. So I start moving. She starts following me. Anywhere I walk, she was like walking next to me. She gets her legs spread out so far apart, trying to pull this cork out. And the guy working the counter sees this and panics and says, ma'am, let me do that. And so he grabbed it. She goes, well, I've almost got it. And I'm thinking, this is going to end so poorly. And he like literally takes the bottle from her and starts, finagling it and twisting it and getting it to where it goes, pops it, hands it back to her. Nothing, explodes out. And she goes, okay, thank you. And then she starts like chugging it. And she walks back to the elevator. And I called my dad and I said, I've never seen that before in my life. And I said, I'm pretty positive that that bottle's probably gone by now. And that was 5 minutes ago. Because, she was chugging that thing as she went back. But, there's weird things that people just don't seem to care about like they should. In a fire, I totally get it. You do what you got to do. The fire is important. But, man, put some clothes on if you're going to come down and buy a bottle of alcohol at a hotel. Anyways, what else you got, Austin?
So probably one of my favorite stories is actually not a personal story, but it's my friend Philip. We did all kinds of stuff in college together. Some of them being dumb from going. You remember the coning fad where you go through a drive-through and order an ice cream cone and you just take the ice cream off the top of the cone and drive off and leave the person holding the cone. Yeah, we would do stuff like that in college. We'd go out to Grand Bay there in Valdosta at midnight and go walk the docks, which looking back is not very smart because there's alligators and, people it was just not very smart, snakes, all that stuff. And you can't see, it's slippery. And, but one night we got the courage to prank call a preacher. And, I think you know this preacher, Bill Ward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know Bill Ward?
I think I do.
Yes. So Bill Ward, let me say this for the record. Bill Ward is probably one of the nicest, hardest working, just a great man, but he is also one of the funniest people.
He is.
He just has a funny personality. And so we were on one of our adventures that night. I think we went and got like true frozen yogurt. So we weren't coning anybody, but we were
coning anybody.
So we were outside in the parking lot and the funny part was his daughter was with us. And so we were like, let's prank call him. And so we came up with this great idea that we're going to tell him the Bible camp had caught on fire. Because he was the president of the Bible camp. So anyway, so we find out that one of the guys doesn't have his phone number. So we're like, hey, we'll use your phone. You'll talk to him. So Philip calls him. Well, he doesn't answer. But because it wasn't, blocked, we didn't block the number, star 69, back in the day, that's what you had to do, or 67, whatever it was. But we didn't do that. So he calls us back. And I remember, we filmed this, by the way, it's on YouTube. And it got like one church put it in the bulletin because they thought it was so funny.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
We're pulling this up.
And so we're sitting there and we're in the truck. So it's on speakerphone. This was back, you got the aux cord so everybody can hear it. This is like my freshman year of college. And so he calls us back and Philip answers and you just got to know Bill Ward's voice.
Yeah.
And I'll try to do my best impression of it. He goes, "This is Bill. Who have you been trying to call?" and so we just lose it. What do you do? You're trying mentally to prepare to talk to Bill Ward, but you just can't. And so we're like, "Yes, this is Sergeant Derringer with the Lowndes County Sheriff's Department. Is this William Ward?" He goes,
"William?
Yeah."
Use the official government issued name.
And he goes, "Yes." And we're like, "Yes, we're calling in regards to a brush fire out near Georgia Bible Camp that just got out of hand and it spread to the camp. And there's some damage and we just want to make you aware of it." And and there's this long pause. Well, we just start cackling. And he goes, "Uh-huh." And so we're trying to play it off. We're dying laughing. And he knows it's us, but he is a good trooper through this whole prank call. And so the funniest part of this is, and he goes, "Yes, there was a pool area here. I think it's called the Pool of Shalom." And see what had happened was, and he was talking about, all the fire damage. And he goes, "See, what had happened was," and he just starts dying laughing. And Bill fills in the blank. "Did the pool put out the fire?" And so we just lose it. And he just goes on and talks about, all this stuff. And he goes, "Well, if y'all was doing y'all's job as officers, you'd be out there catching those speeders on Lakeland Highway." And just giving it to us, that was probably one of the funniest nights of my college career was prank calling Bill Ward. But the other story that I was going to say that I got off on this one was, Philip tells this story and he tells it way better than anybody because he experienced it firsthand. He was at Georgia Bible Camp as a counselor, and this is a true story. And so he had the young campers. And so he's there with the campers, and so they had found a turtle in the woods. And so they had went and found this turtle, and they gave it a name, all this stuff, and they said, "Look, Philip, look what we have found. We have found this turtle." And so they keep it for like a day. Well, the next day at breakfast, they were like, "Philip, guess what we did with the turtle?" And they're like, "I don't want to know. I just don't want to know." And he goes, "We put it in the first bathroom stall in the bathhouse." And so he's like, "Okay, cool." Well, then they were telling Bill Ward about it. And so, "Mr. Bill, we found a turtle, and guess what we did with it?" "I don't want to know." And so they're like, well, "No, Mr. Bill, you got to guess. Guess what we did with this turtle?" And like, "I don't want to know." "Well, we put it in the first bathroom stall in the bathhouse." And so about that time, another gentleman overhears him. He goes, "Are y'all talking about that first bathroom stall in the bath, the men's bathhouse?" He goes, "I plunged and I plunged and I plunged that thing this morning, and I could not get it to go down." and so I guess the way to say that was a crappy way to go out. So,
That's pretty rough, right?
So that's one of my favorite Bill Ward stories. I was not there personally, but I've heard it so many times from Philip that is one of the funniest stories. Is what happened to guess where we put the turtle? And what happened? You talking about that first bathroom stall?
All things do not go back to the sea, man.
No.
Somebody must be really sick here.
Yes.
So we have a surprise. Bill, come on in.
He would be hilarious on this show. By the way, he would.
So I'll tell this because it was funny. Happened at Lads to Leaders last year, and we went to lunch. Me and I don't know if you know Morgan and Alan Tackett.
Oh yeah.
So
they're from this area,
right? Yeah. I grew up with Morgan for a time. She was at South Haven, so we're good friends. Her and Alan, got married. Alan and I became good buddies too. And so we were at Lads to Leaders together. We decided to go to lunch. And at this big convention center in Nashville, there's restaurants within the Gaylord Opry. And so I was asking them what they were in the mood for. They said, "Well, let's go to a Mexican restaurant that's here." And so we walked over to it, and we're sitting there, and we get underneath. We almost get seated at this one table, but then they put us underneath, and they had this like slope awning that was where we would have been sitting off to the side of that slope awning. And while we're eating, all of a sudden, glass falls from one of the rooms above and hits right where we were originally going to sit. And I remember thinking, what happened? And I'm walking back with them on the bridge, and we look over, and there's this kid in a hotel room, probably from the convention, and he's looking out it, and then he tries to cover the curtain over it like, I didn't break it. So someone threw something and broke that window, and this glass came falling out and almost hit some people. We got lucky that it didn't hit anybody, but I remember looking at that and thinking, that probably would have been me if I had been that age and at that. But what do you have that you bring to Lads to Leaders that you can launch that breaks a window? I mean, I know the puppet thing happens, but I don't feel like a puppet could break that window. So what do you,
man.
what
They're
do you
playing
throw?
ball in the room. I don't know.
Must be. Ball is life. I get it. But
That's right.
it almost took someone's life that day. So, I mean,
I hope there was some lessons learned on that one.
Yeah. What else you got for us, Austin?
So this one's really not funny. It is looking back. So this was, I think, 2015. We were in Nicaragua, and we had two people from Louisiana miss their connecting flight in Dallas or something because of delay or canceled flight or something. So they weren't getting into the next day. Well, we were already going to be at the work site, and so we're there at the church building, and Spin said, "Hey, you want to stay here with the group, or do you want to go back and get that two young people that are flying in tonight? You can go get them or stay with the group. One of us needs to be in either place." And I said, "So let me think about it. Being over 30 people or being over 2 people, I'll go get the 2." So me and Polanco get in the van, and we ride back to the Managua to get to the airport. So we, I see them, they had a glass window, so I see them come out. And anyway, so I mean, it's like midnight by the time we leave the airport. So we get back to the hotel at 1:30, and I told Spin, I gave him specific instructions because we were in that same room. There's a hallway, and our room's at the end of that hallway. I said, make sure you leave the door unlocked. That way, when I get back, I can get in. Because it wasn't like he was already at the hotel, just leave his door unlocked. And this isn't like American where you got multiple keys. It's the old fashioned key. And so I told him, I said, make sure you leave that door unlocked. So I left from the church building. They were finishing up services, and he was going back to the hotel. Well, so we get back to the hotel at 1:30, and I knew what rooms they were in, and I told those people that they were rooming with, I said, hey, make sure you leave your door unlocked. That way they can get in. They don't have to wake you up. And so I point them in one direction. I said, hey, your room's upstairs. It's the first one on the left. My room's right here. If you need anything, just let me know. So I get them in their rooms. Well, I go to my door, and it's locked. Spin had unlocked his door and left it unlocked, but the door to go to the hallway was unlocked. And this was before people really got international plans. The Wi-Fi wasn't great. And so I'm like, how am I going to get in my room? I'm like, it's 1:30 in the morning. So I'm jiggling it, somehow okay, is there any way I can jimmy the lock, to get in? Well, I turn around and there's a guy with a shotgun. Yes. And this is Nicaragua. Okay. Not the safest country. And so if you're listening to this, I'm okay. I promise. But I remember,
you're not really here today. You actually got shot and it didn't go like that.
So I remember turning around, this guy had basically a shot off shotgun. And I'm like, because remember, it was on a coffee plantation. And I was like, what's the word for key in Spanish? I should have paid attention in my high school Spanish class,
right. Estoy aquí.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, key? I don't have my keys on me. I leave them in my, book bag. I'm like, key? And he goes, so he puts the gun down, goes behind the counter, gets the master key, unlocks my door. He was the security guard.
Oh, so he had locked it.
Yeah. He was the one that locked it because there was that gallery there with all that artwork. But I just remember sitting there thinking, this is it.
It's how I'm going out.
Yeah, I'm going to be taken off by the mafia. But no, he was just a security guard walking the perimeter. And just luckily he knew enough that I needed to get in. And once I got in, I was like, oh, I'm good.
I wish he'd been like, here, hold my gun. Let me go get the key. You take this.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to stand guard, okay?
Mr. Chamorro was a unique dude because, the guns I think probably are, not allowed down there, but he was a part of the CIA or something. He was a unique dude. One time he was like, you want to go ride my Jeep? And I'm like, no, I don't trust you. I'm not, because he had this racing Jeep. And somebody rode with him one time. They're like, don't get in that thing.
Don't get in the Jeep.
No, you will die. Like,
we haven't seen the last 3 people that have gotten in that Jeep.
Yeah, don't do it.
You've got anything else to share?
No, not really. The only one so taxi rides. Have you ever, you've been in a foreign country. Have you been to a foreign country?
Yeah, Cape Town.
Okay, so they drive crazy, right?
Oh, yeah. Not even just driving crazy. The people that cross the street don't care if you're going full speed. You will stop or you will kill them. That's the only 2 options.
The rule in Nicaragua is if you're riding public transportation, you say, how many more? One more. And then you get to the next stop. Nobody got off. And it's like, how many more? One more. They'll pack them on those. So one time, this isn't a great story, but we went to road public transportation, and that was an experience. But we were in between those 2 campaigns, and we were hungry, so we were like, hey, let's just go to the mall. There's plenty of options. Well, because we had 4 or 5 people, we can just split up, get what we want, sit together, eat. And so we got done eating, and we walked around the mall just to kill time. This is in between campaigns. I think the next day we were flying to Costa Rica. And so we were sitting there and waiting on a taxi. And so the guy goes, "Donde?" which means where. And I said, "Rionde Aeropuerto," which, Ronde Hotel Airport. And he goes, "You speak Spanish?" It's Philip in the front seat and me and Macy in the back seat. And Spin and Allison were in another vehicle. And so in the taxi behind us. And so he goes, "You speak Spanish?" And Philip goes, "No," or "Poquito," little. And he just looks at us and laughs. And I'm like, this is not going to be good. And so he's weaving in and out of traffic. And so we're going down a hill like full speed. Like, I mean, it was only like a 3-mile ride, but I promise that time it seemed like a roller coaster because we're going down this hill and I can see traffic up. I'm in the back seat and I'm like, we're going to die right here. I'm like, he's not slowing down. And so Philip's like holding on for dear life, you know, like what in the world's going on? And then I'm in the back like bracing Macy because I'm like, you're about to go flying through this windshield if we don't stop. And I promise you could probably put a piece of paper between where he had stopped. But the funniest one, riding experience, it was just me and one other guy. We were going to check on a church. We had done 2 campaigns there. We wanted to go just do a checkup campaign, follow up with visitors and people they'd stay with. And so I'm in the back with Alex and Bernabe, which he's coming to Memphis hopefully next year, was driving.
Yeah.
Well, there's these, believe it or not, Panama has very nice tolls where they have the little reader. And if you got money on it, it raises up. If not, you got to pay or reload or whatever. And so we're going. And I remember we're sitting there and he's coming up on it. Well, what do you normally do when you get to a toll road? You slow down, right? You know, that way it goes up and then you kind of speed up through it. Well, he's not slowing down. He's speeding up. And I'm like, Bernabe. Next thing I know, I hear, wham! That arm had not raised and he had hit that thing. And I remember there was like silence for 5 seconds and Bart goes, dude, are you not going to stop? He goes, oh, it's no problem. He goes, happens all the time. They should have raised the thing. It just keeps driving. I'm like, dude, we just hit that thing wide open. And so then one time we had a rental car and it didn't raise up. So this time he had actually slowed down. I think this was after he had learned his lesson, you know, you actually do stop. And so he pulls over and me and Philip were making this funny video in the back and we're like, what are we going to do? You know, we're about to be arrested, you know, all these funny things. And it's, what'd they say, Bernabe? He goes, he gave me a ticket, you know, and I'm like, what? So we didn't have money on our account. So they gave us a ticket. But there's so many just things that you just weaving in and out of traffic. I mean, you're sitting there next to a big semi and they just come over on you and the buses. I think the rule down there is whatever truck is the biggest gets the right of way.
Yeah. If there's room, they'll take it.
Yeah. And so they do it. And these motorcycles are just going right between vehicles full speed. And it's like, man, you just sometimes wonder, how have I not had a wreck down there?
When we were in Cape Town, I'll leave him nameless, but he knows who he is. The brother that drove us around, I found out he liked to, on the interstate that they have, there's not a whole lot of lights. And so if you turn your lights off, it is black as night. I mean, it is just nothing around. You cannot see anything. Well, he loved to get going real, real fast and then do that. And then do that for like 10, 20, 30 seconds, and then you flip them back on. The most terrifying experience was when he did that. And it was just kind of like, okay, I'll drive. That's fine. You get in the back seat, man. I don't know how to drive on the other side of the road and the other side of the car, but I'll figure it out. You hop in the back because you're going to kill us. Yeah. So it's certainly interesting and unique, all the different experiences. Glad that you took some time to join us for
here today.
Did that really happen? It's okay to laugh. You know, it's good. We
should laugh. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure this show has given me an extra 3 or 4 minutes on this earth. Not this specific episode, but the show in general. And so I'm glad that we have the chance to do this and kind of just give some people at home an opportunity to remember it's okay. Preachers, missionaries, we all have stories. We all have things that happen. I remember being a kid, never believed any of the stories that these preachers would tell at these dinners and lectureships. And then I became a preacher and I was like, oh, they weren't kidding. This happens. Okay. And so it's fun to get together and talk about it. So Austin, thanks for joining. We'll put all your information in the show notes, but specifically that video of Bill Ward in the show notes. We will gladly have that because I think that needs to go viral again. But that's pretty much it. I mean, there's nothing else I have to say. Wayne, you want to say any story to close it out or any?
No, Austin, thank you, buddy, for all that you do and for all that you mean to the kingdom. And keep it up. I'm sure there'll be more stories to tell. So,
You notice he didn't say that. Appreciate all you do for the kingdom in the episode that was about the kingdom. He waited until we got to the joke.
I didn't have that opportunity
the
then,
joke
okay?
episode, and then he's like, "This will be funny.
This will be good."
All right. Well, thanks for being here, Austin.
Good
We
to be here.
appreciate it.